Welcome to Life and Business Podcast. I'm your host, Sue Bravo. This is a podcast where we help you to live life well and do business better so that you can have a wildly profitable business and an amazing, thriving life, all without having to sacrifice your values, your beliefs, your relationships, your health, and just really helping you just make a bigger impact in the world while stewarding your gifts and being on a bigger mission. And today's a really special episode. I know we're only 2 episodes in, but I felt like it was just important to share that I am recording at home. This is not a podcast studio home setup. This is just my makeshift setup. If you can even just imagine, whether you're watching or listening to the audio, it's like I've got my tripod and my phone set up in the center with like my cord to my mic, and my mic stand is actually, clamped onto an amp. And on top of the amp is like a box with the battery case and my iPad so that I have camera A and camera B. And all this to say that it kind of, this is the result of losing all of my podcast episodes for the next quarter, for the 3 months. And that's kind of what today's episode is about: how to not freak out in spite of unwanted circumstances. And what happened was I was exporting my episodes for my launch, which was I think last week. I wanted to have 3 episodes for my actual launch. So episode 1, 2, and 3 all in one day, and then just 1 episode weekly moving forward. Unfortunately, when I was exporting my episodes, my external hard drive fell off of, when I was moving my laptop and my external hard drive together, it fell off. And so it had ejected improperly. Usually on a laptop or whatever you're using, you're supposed to eject from the laptop and then unplug it, but I didn't unplug it. It just fell. And so it was, my external hard drive was beeping, and I was like, that's never happened before. And so, just like when we're sick, I was like Googling all the symptoms, and it said that it was not going to work. It was just dead. And I was like, okay, I have 2 options here. I can completely freak out, which was so interesting because my brain wanted to freak out. I think that normally what I noticed in that moment was when that happened, I was like, normally I would immediately be like, oh my gosh, I spent all this money to be in the studio and to pay the babysitter, and I spent all this time in studio, and what about the guests? And they all came, and I just that's how our normal brain works, right? Normally our brain would just immediately go into all these things that have happened in the past of I've already done all this work, right? And I'm not sure if the word is regret, but we just feel oh my gosh, if you know the word, you let me know. But I was just thinking about how I didn't feel that way. Of I didn't think about all the things that had happened in the past because I felt like I was just so grounded in the bigger mission. I knew that this podcast was not about me or my voice on my podcast. It was about bigger mission, the bigger impact that I'm supposed to be making. And I'm even if I didn't have all of these episodes recorded for the next 3 months, I could still make it happen. I could still record at home just like this, right? With my iPhone and my iPad as camera A and camera B. And I could still make it work no matter what, because I know that it's not about the production of it, right? Having a great production is amazing. It's a bonus, but honestly, it's the message that you're putting out into the world. And so I think in that moment, what I wanted to share with you guys was that normally my brain would be focused on the money I've already spent, but I didn't freak out. And it was interesting. I noticed that my brain was we should be freaking out. We should be freaking out. We should be freaking out, but we're not, and that's okay. And it's taken me a long time to get here because my personality is normally cool, calm, and collected. But because of years and years of trauma, I just felt I've gotten to become a person who can sometimes freak out, or I can't think of the word, but freak out when big things happen, or even little things happen that don't go exactly according to plan or my way. And so it was very interesting that in this moment, it's taken me just practicing new beliefs and practicing new thoughts about not having to freak out, because I have certainty in a certain God, and I have certainty in the mission and the impact. And I know that no matter what happens, I don't need a podcast studio in order to make the impact and be on the mission that I'm supposed to be on. And coincidentally, when I had dropped my external hard drive, I had messaged, the podcast studio. I was hoping that they would have my files backed up, but coincidentally, they were also on a 10-day vacation. And so they wouldn't be back in town until like later on this week. And this goes into this idea that I was thinking about earlier of like making excuses, how our brains can so easily make excuses. And here was an example where I was like, I could just wait until later on in the week when they're home. And then, that would be like 3 days from now. And then I could wait another day to go see them. And hopefully they will be ready to be in the office by then. And then hopefully they will have my stuff still backed up at their back, like storage stuff. And then I could, get the files up, edit it, upload it. And that would be like 5-6 days late from my original published date. Like I could have decided to do that, but I was thinking about what kind of business I want to have, what kind of business owner I want to be. What do like my words have meanings, right? That's what I was really thinking about. I was like, no, I'm just going to make this work. I can absolutely record right here. I can edit and publish whatever I have right here. It's not about the quality. It's about the message that you have out there. And I think my main focus is like, it's not about the millions of people I'm impacting. It's about the one person that's watching this or listening to this, that it's going to change the way they think about business. It's going to change the way they think about the life that they're living. And it's going to help them live life well and do business better. And I'm just like, I'm going to make it happen. Like, why am I going to make that person wait an extra week because I wanted to look a specific and certain way? It's like, no, people are ready and waiting and hungry for what you have right now, for the special gifts and message that you have for them right now. And so if you have come up in your entrepreneurship life and business, like inevitably in your life and business, things are just going to happen where it's going to be unwanted circumstances. And this is the moment where you get to decide as a business owner, do I want to keep pressing forward in spite of the opposition, in spite of unwanted circumstances? Or do I want to freak out? Do I want to freak out and crawl into a little hole and just like disappear forever? Because it can be so easy for us to do that. It can be so easy for our brains to freak out and for us to just go hide. I could absolutely just like get off of social media and like be so embarrassed and ashamed of like, oh my gosh, I didn't get my episodes out and now I have no episodes and now I'm not at the studio anymore. Like I could absolutely do that. Absolutely. But that is so selfish, right? So selfish of me to be thinking about myself and how my podcast look and how I look and all that stuff. And it's like, no, has nothing to do with me. And it has everything to do with my clients, my customers, your clients, your customers, your community, the people that you have been called to impact and change their lives. And that's kind of what I want you guys to be thinking about today, is like not just about managing your minds, which I believe is probably one of the biggest skill sets that you could have as an entrepreneur, and probably one of the things that I teach my clients that they don't even know that they're learning, but I can see it in their business, how they show up as a CEO, and then that shows up in their life as well, how they manage their mind, and they're just unwavered in spite of unwanted circumstances. And again, that just brings me to this idea of like, you can let your brain freak out, or you can just be in control of your thoughts and your feelings. And I think sometimes this will have to be like a whole podcast episode, but I think sometimes when I bring that up, some people are like, no, I just have natural reactions. Like it's natural, it's normal to have that. And I would like to just, invite you into this new way of thinking, into this new opportunity of like, you are in control of your emotions because you are in control of your thoughts and your mind. And the sooner that we have that belief, and the sooner we acknowledge that, oh wow, I have everything that I need inside of me right now, the sooner we have freedom. We are no longer imprisoned by, oh well, this person just triggers me, and this person's just, horrible, and this person is just XYZ. We step out of victim mentality because now we are in complete control of our life and our business. And I think I also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but I felt like I wasn't freaking out because, again, I was just focused on the mission. And if I have, I'm just going to stop right there in case I already mentioned it. But something else that was pretty big for me as I was kind of like thinking about this was like, I felt like God was just humbling me in that moment. And again, you don't have to believe in God, but if you do, like here's just an opportunity for you to just think about, where is God showing up and where is he not showing up and where is he leading you to? And I felt something that God was so clearly saying to me was that like, I don't need the worldly strategy because he's got this podcast in the palm of his hands. That like he's in control of it, that he's got it. He's going to make this podcast into exactly what he wants me to be, whether I have a studio or not a studio. It just requires intentionality and like stepping to my role so that he can step into his role. And the strategy that I would share with my clients for a podcast is like, hey, you want to release your podcast as soon as possible. Just like think about like movies, right? They have trailers ahead of time, even sometimes years ahead of time, and then they launch with the actual movie. And so with a podcast, you want to have your trailer out as quickly as possible, and then you want to launch with multiple episodes so that you can increase the downloads for your podcast, for the algorithm, and so that it can show that it's, a great podcast because there's a lot of downloads all at once. But it's so interesting because the trailer, I had recorded it in like May or June so that it could be out at that time. But because of circumstances, not because I was like lazy or I didn't record or I didn't do the work. It was just like circumstantially things happened tech wise that prevented me from launching it in June when I wanted to, versus like the first week of August, or like literally only 1 week before the actual podcast. And that didn't go according to plan. And then of course, because I dropped my external hard drive, only one episode exported. And then I think like half of episode number 3 exported. And so again, even that not working out, I just felt like God was saying so strongly of like, you don't need more of the strategies right now. You need more of the spirit. And it's interesting because I am not normally a perfectionist, but I just felt like this podcast was so much bigger than myself. I could see the vision for all of that it will become. And I just see all of the impact of what it will become. And I just feel like it's so much bigger than me. I was like getting into perfectionism where I'm like, it needs to be like this and this and this and this and needs to be perfect. And of course it didn't turn out that way. And so again, I just felt like God was so humbling in the moment of like, you just need to do the one thing you are doing so that I can do everything else. And I really felt like God was saying like, he's in charge of the strategies. He's got this and he's going to bless it. And he's going to make it into everything that he wants it to be, not everything that I want it to be, which was so interesting. And so I felt like I've just been talking to a lot of people about this lately of like me showing up where I need to be so that he can show up doing what he needs to do. And it makes me also think about, maybe it's like kind of random, but I think about how sometimes people think that they're missing something. Like they're missing a puzzle piece, or they're missing a strategy, or they're missing this like special thing. And I want to just invite and offer you that maybe you don't need more strategy. Maybe you just need more believing, more like, I guess this was what I would tell people normally, is the mindset piece, right? Is the spirit piece, your soul piece, like having that belief that you have gifts to be steward. You have an impact to make, and you have a bigger mission to be on mission for. And you're so worried about, I need this and I need that and I need this. And you're so selfish right now, right? If we can just be honest, it's like we're such selfish human beings, and we're just all tied up in our emotions of like how we want things to look and be and etc. And it's like, no, it's none of that. It's about the people that I'm trying to impact. It's about the mission that I'm trying to follow. And I think about this person, this woman who had invited me to speak at a summit for mental health in Colorado. And she had asked me to come on a Zoom so she could share the information. And the first thing she shared was 3 years ago, she had come to when I was just starting coaching, I did a lot of Facebook Lives, like Q&A and coaching sessions on there. And she said she had come to one of the lives, and the one thing that I shared with her was consistency. I told her that you just have to be consistent. If that's once a week, twice a week, 3 times, pick whatever is going to be consistent for you. And 3 years later, she has a nonprofit and she's helping people with domestic violence, and she's a domestic violence survivor, and helping people with, again, mental health, and the women, the moms, the children. And I think about the lives she's impacting now, all the women's lives that she's impacting, the kids' lives, the community lives, the families that she's impacting. And like it was all because of one Facebook Live, because of one tip, because of one person who decided to show up and click, live on a Facebook. And it took one person to decide, wow, I'm going to take to heart what she said about consistency, and I'm going to take action. I'm going to be consistent with one thing continuously, again and again and again. And look at everything that she's created now. Look at the impact she's making. And I want you to think about, like, anytime, inevitably, life and business is going to present to you unwanted circumstances. And this is your opportunity to grow as an entrepreneur. Do you want to freak out, or do you want to keep moving and pressing forward in spite of unwanted circumstances? Do you want to be in control of your mind, the things that you tell yourself, or do you want to just sit here and sulk and be like, well, I must suck. I must be a failure. And I can't believe, like, beating yourself up. Like, man, I wrote it down on my phone, but I heard somebody say, like, my thoughts are beating me up. Something like that, right? Like, you could just be, I could sit here and I could sulk and I could be like beating myself up, but like, I can't believe that you're so dumb, and I can't believe you dropped your external hard drive, and I can't believe you did all this work and it's all for nothing now, and look what you did, and think about all the people that are gonna like be disappointed, right? 100% I could think that. That's a choice. But I choose not to think that. I just literally choose, like, that's just not who I am. That's just not how I think. I just get to choose, cool, I'm going to record it on my iPhone, on my iPad. I'm going to edit it, hit publish, be done. Continue moving forward. Continue pressing on. Continue spreading the message for one person, right? I think about this podcast. It's not about hundreds, thousands, millions of people listening. It's about one person walking away with one thing that's going to help them live life well and do business better. And so as you continue your entrepreneurship journey, I just really invite you into the space of just asking yourself, what is one thing that I can do to help whoever needs my product or my service today, right? What is my audience? What do my clients, my customers need to hear from me today, right now, in this moment? And then I also want to invite you to this question of, if you had everything that you needed right now, how would you show up? Because again, oftentimes we think that we're missing something. We're missing this piece. We're missing this coach. We're missing this strategy. But if you had everything that you needed right now, how would you show up? Where would you show up? What would you say? How would you speak? I truly believe that you have everything that you need inside of you right now. And it just takes a few intentional questions to really pull that out of you so that you can kind of break out of that shell and be like, oh, wow, I do have everything that I need inside of me right now. But for those of you who are looking for coaching, guidance, clarity, so that you can steward your gifts and make an impact and be on greater mission, I'd love to invite you to learn more about my private coaching program. You can click the link anywhere in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, in the description as well for the links. And lastly, for today's episode, I wanted to just share quickly my shirt. I didn't wear my hat today, and that's okay. But I wanted to show this shirt that my friend made me. Her name's Jill Cruz. And again, I'll put the link to her information in the show notes in the descriptions. But her business, I think it's pronounced Satus, Stratus, Parva. I don't know. I need to pronounce it correctly. But either way, it will be in all of the show notes and descriptions. I'm sorry if I butchered that name, but it means start small. And that's all I know. That I just know it starts small. Obviously, I can't pronounce it. But either way, I think about all of you. It doesn't matter if you're just starting your business, you're in the middle of your business, or you're decades ahead, right? Where can you begin to start small to live life well and do business better? Because that's the point of this podcast, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what stage of business or life you're in. It doesn't matter if you're 6-year-old or 60 years old. Like, you can always be learning how to live life well and do business better, counterculturally, simply, so that you never have to sacrifice your values, your health, your beliefs, your relationships, your family, to create a profitable business and a thriving life. And so I invite you to start small so that you can begin to live life well and do business better. I'll talk to you on the next episode.